No, this is live. That was oh, damn it. That's the start of the pod, isn't it?
No, that's not. We're starting again. Welcome back to Coffee Break.
Yeah.
We've just finished up a great episode here with none other than the incredible Dale Harris. He's trying to just hit the sound effects.
I love the sound effects on my board. What can I say? That was an amazing episode, and I want to summarize it with a really low and sensual way of
talking. Dale Harris was fantastic.
I don't know what I do with this guy. I mean, seriously.
No, that was amazing. What a sweetheart. Again, I feel like I've been saying that a lot, but we've had a lot of really nice people coming on the pod.
We have been very lucky to have some incredible folks on and, just so genuine and so generous with their knowledge and their insights. It's great.
And I felt like we had a million more things that I wanted to talk about. He's going to be over at Host, so maybe we can tee something up there and have a little chat with him again.
Yes.
Key takeaways coming out of that. What kind of stood out to you? To me, I've always looked at the WBC and there's like the 50-50 split of it for me where like sometimes I feel like it brings up competition in a good and bad way. I feel like sometimes it can divide a bit of the industry sometimes. Sometimes that competition leads to innovation. That's great. What I found beautiful about Dale's story was didn't work in the industry, just loved coffee and making it at home. Similar to me, why I fell in love with coffee, it was when I started making it at a crappy restaurant, I was like, I can get better each time and I can make it better. And then coffee is something that people are so obsessed with. So you see them love it. And when you'd make someone that cappuccino they adored, it just brought love. It felt like that's what he had, but he didn't know how to connect with anyone in that world really. And so it felt like competition, there was that thing for him. And from competition, he found community. And he was saying that 5 out of the 12 competitors or something are still some of his best friends today. And that's how he kind of found his place in the world, which was, beautiful.
Yeah, it was. I think these are the unseen kind of elements or fringe benefits or something like that about the competitions is that, we see this big shiny thing up on stage and these very kind of formalized routines and all of the effort that goes into them. But there's so much richness around it that isn't about that moment of winning. Mm-hmm. And I think that community element is massive. He mentioned they were other competitors, I think. And I've seen that at the world stage where there are these people from, it's over 60 countries get together, they fly in from all corners of the world and all they're doing is trying to prepare and serve and talk about coffee. And the back of house vibes are like pretty awesome. People are like, talking with each other, tasting some of their coffees sometimes, loaning out equipment because someone's glasses broke in transit.
Well, that's what I was shocked about. Like when Jamie Thompson was competing in the Brewers, obviously, smaller scale in here in Melbourne, but backstage, it was just like everyone was helping like, let me try. Or maybe I'd do this. Or maybe you should try explaining this way. And everyone was trying to help big each other up and get them through. And it was amazing seeing that kind of community vibe backstage. And same thing, if someone like broke a vial, it's like, don't worry, I've got spares out the back I can get you. Or here, borrow mine. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, and I kind of found that too. I said my early crash and burn days of going into competition, which I know you loved hearing about, but they were really significant for me in community building, and some of the connections and the people that I met in those early moments are still like incredible
especially coming over from WA and I think being thrown into that kind of deep end of competition, like it opens up people to be welcoming and warm because, people are out of place or it's, all a little intimidating and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, I guess the summary is competitions certainly aren't everything about coffee and they're only a niche kind of thing out there in the industry. And there's some problems and challenges with them, but they can be a really powerful part of the mix of developing a specialty coffee community.
Yeah. One of the things of having to listen to yourself on a podcast now, just before I noted myself doing it, is I finished the sentence by saying, and that kind of thing. Just as this filler thing. And now I can't, when I say it, I'm like, shut up. I'm like, God, I wish I didn't have to listen to myself so much.
I've been finding those tics too. Don't worry. That's
all right.
The thing we put ourselves through.
We can turn it into a drinking game for our listeners. Every time I say, and that kind of thing, they're like,
the amount of stuff I'd cut is amazing.
Thank you for
Mainly
looking
from
after
me.
us, Liam.
Let's be real. You guys are best.
Thank
You're really
you
good.
for
I
taking
was
care.
about to just be like, well, hang on, let's be nice about this. It's
No,
like,
no.
you don't understand how much I cut you guys up to make you sound good.
No, you guys are incredibly succinct, but you do have to think on your toes.
Yeah.
I got a few takeaways there.
Yeah.
Can I throw to you? It was
Please.
kind of jumping off your hot take, Ben, about like there's so much knowledge on the stage and we need to kind of engage with it. The yes and to this is getting those competitors breaking down their own competition, because 15 minutes, like as much as you kind of spoke about, I had to get up on stage and 16 minutes of talking is so much time. It's not when you're encompassing the level of story where the product comes from, why you're up there, everything that is actually so succinct to the second.
Yeah.
So I think having like the actual competitors that do go into learning and all those things actually break down their own kind of
That's a great idea.
things, you know?
Well, I was going to say, as we were talking about that, and Dale mentioned, is like, if you're going to watch one of the winners, watch one of the losers, or like, one of the
I don't think he quite said that.
I think
but,
he said one of the terrible ones is what he said, if I'm quoting him directly.
I'm sorry, I have no control over my co-host.
No, he was saying, if you're going to watch one of the, the top 6, watch one of the people who ranks lower, because everyone there is incredibly skilled and brings so much knowledge and expertise. So, you're learning just as much at that lower ranked end as you are from the top in some cases.
Also that thing of like the Icarus thing. A lot of the people that crashed and burned were the people that were trying to
Flying
innovate.
too close to the sun, yeah.
Yeah, they're the ones trying to push the
edge.
But I also think looking at different ways to tell the story, like someone like ourselves here with our media agency, or even better, someone like Morgan, who is both in media and a World Barista competitor, she did the best job that I've seen through her socials of telling the stories of competing in the World Barista Championship. So someone like that who's done it before and told the story in a way that's actually engaging, and that I think would be really cool. Even if it was like little mini series rather than these long-winded docu things with rambling, like talking, just having like short, succinct 30-second clips that maybe summarize parts or tell that journey could be a new way to kind of look at it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack, and kind of, as I was saying, I think there's a lot there that is really valuable, is really kind of inspiring for people, but just doesn't make its way outside of that really structured, rigid kind of performance.
It was something you also brought up was just how much he talked about he did it 9 times, 10 times.
Yeah.
The values that he learned along the way, and that he grew from, like, each time maybe not winning, it was still a win because he took a lot away from it. He said that his best competition was his first one because that meant the most from a learning experience and from the community that he kind of built. Granted, that's very hard to do, that if you are set on, trying to win it or place high, like that's all well and good to say that. And a lot of the time it's in hindsight or retrospect that you can kind of go, wow, I learned a lot there. But I got excited when I heard him being like, oh, now I'm entering the coffee and good spirits, and that you could kind of see is like, I've won the World Barista Championship. I don't really care. I just want to get out there I don't care in the sense of winning. Yeah. I just care in the sense of...
The pressure is different.
Yeah, the pressure is different. He's like, I didn't read the rules and I scored 0 on one of the drinks. So, that's
you
what
live
it
and
is.
you learn.
But it was kind of fun seeing that vibrance and life in him when he was like, he lit up when he talked about it.
Yeah, it's with any of these things that we put ourselves out there to be judged or assessed or tested, it's stretching ourselves and kind of putting ourselves sometimes into some uncomfortable spaces, but you stretch and you kind of learn from those spaces. So, yeah, I think, as you say, it's easy for someone who has won the whole damn thing to be standing there and saying, well, I learned so much along the journey. But I guess the proof of the pudding is that he did do it 9 times, like 9 years without winning. So, you'd have to be getting something out of it. Otherwise, it's just masochistic just to keep going back again and again.
I wish I'd asked him this because I didn't kind of think about it now till we started talking about it. But I wonder if he would have done it 9 times if he'd made it to the actual worlds like 3 or 4 times, because that's he was talking about that 12 weeks of training, that stretch. And if you look at someone like Jack Simpson, who's, won it 3 years in a row now, is it?
Yep.
That's so much work and so much of your life you're dedicating every year to doing it. So I wonder if actually not if only making it there once and then winning it was kind of what got him to keep going for so long.
Yeah, a really focused kind of outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was interesting. And I think that he also really highlighted the difficulty or the impossibility of doing the competitions alone or like by yourself, especially I think if you're doing it at a kind of a national and a world level, is that you just, you need people around you to support that being effective.
So to bare minimum,
Yep.
expanding on what we talked about, if tomorrow I'm like, I want to enter the World Barista Championship, what do you think the bare minimum kind of necessities that I need?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was thinking about that as we talked with Dale. I think, if you're entry level going into the competition, you kind of don't want to have it, death by kind of, overdoing it, right? Like it's unlikely the first time you go into a competition, you are going to win. So figure out what you want to achieve out of it. But I think some support in roasting the coffee and getting that done. Often a great barista isn't necessarily also a really skilled roaster. So partner with a roaster who can kind of help you get the coffee and get it to a competition service. I think it's great to have someone who can taste the coffee and knows the competition rules or has maybe judged before or competed before. So they can taste your coffees that you're serving and give you some feedback.
Yep.
Judges, friends, other competitors, great option. And then I think, it's great to have someone who's just good at organizing stuff, right? There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of prep. And when you're also focused on kind of being present, learning, being able to speak, being able to make coffee, like just not to have to think about where your clean chucks cloths is like definitely helps you create a mental space. So I think you can probably get away with like one person who's your core kind of support and then have some, your roaster and someone who's good at tasting notes who can kind of like tap in on that as just an entry level without overloading it.
Now, I don't want to like throw anyone who's competing under the bus because I think it's beautiful, but I feel like there's this set tone for how people present for the WBC. And I guess my question is like, how much is that dictated by you might have an international set of judges? So making sure that everything is understood and language is clear. But has that been created over time? Like sometimes I watch it, I'm like, have a bit more pizzazz, a bit more like hospitality presenter about it. Like sometimes it just feels very like quiet and considered.
Well, I think Dale pointed out as well that people see what was successful and then often try and mimic that. But it's certainly not what we as judges kind of preferencing. The rules and the regulations and definitely the support we get as judges is to be very open within kind of the targets of how people get there and how they want to get there. We want that diversity of kind of expression, of personality, there's lots of different kind of representations of coffee professionals. And so, yeah, certainly you don't have to be one way of presenting and talking. You need to be clear, but you can kind of deliver it in lots of ways.
Has anyone ever done a full presentation in song and dance?
I actually think that I feel like there might be. Maybe not at the world level. I do remember my first ever World Barista Championship that I went and watched, which was in Bern, Switzerland, which was the year that Klaus won, where we just interviewed. His was actually the first ever competition.
He did a song and dance performance.
He won with an interpretive dance. I can't remember who the competitor was. Maybe it was Italy, had a 4-piece string quartet on stage with the live music playing as they competed.
That's cool.
It was incredible.
That. Yeah, I like that. That's
and in fact, one of my first regional competitions on the West Coast in Perth, someone brought their mate along who played acoustic guitar all the way through their performance.
Acoustic coffee, the folk.
Perfect.
The folk, it's all tying in.
Yep.
Speaking of tying in, our dear friend worked at Costa Coffee, and there's actually a little Costa Coffee news for our news.
Ooh, coming in live.
Costa Coffee. Yeah.
The new jingle is going to take them to the next acquisition.
Look, Coca-Cola is trying to offload their recent purchase of Britain's biggest coffee chain, Costa Coffee. So they bought them back in 2018 for, I think, £3.9 billion. And now, just a few years later, they're trying to offload it at just around 2 billion pounds. So that's a big L right there on the sales there. But Costa has more than 2,000 outlets across the UK. It has nearly 18,000 employees. However, with the rising cost of staffing and the cost of coffee, they've been struggling. They're also facing competition from, you were trying to remember it, what is it called?
Pret-a-manger.
Yep. So they're facing a lot of competition, rising costs, and they're just not making back that kind of return.
Yeah. I don't know, like for the folks who are listening, I think that the interesting thing, if you're in the coffee industry, is that this isn't necessarily like good or bad news. I think it's part of the shifting kind of market and the shifting pressures in coffee. There was this real spike where specialty coffee like hit its boom time, right? In probably the, 2018, 2019, it was really peaking in lots of different markets. It was really sexy. It was really approachable. It was becoming very mainstream, kind of like specialty coffee going more mainstream. And so all of these big investment firms and multinationals came in and did these big acquisitions to get a coffee portfolio on with the ideas that it would continue in trajectory. And I think coffee and coffee culture has continued to grow, but at the same time, there's competition. So just like they're saying, it's not like this one brand is just on that upward trajectory. There's all of these other brands. There's specialty independents who are growing and developing. So it's, I don't know quite how to interpret this news. I don't know that it's a sign that like Costa Coffee is necessarily doing terribly.
No, I think it's the rising cost of all those kind of things. I do, however, feel like, as you said, there's not going to be as much of a monopoly anymore. Mm-hmm. And I feel like for those bigger chain kind of things, I don't know if there's going to be any other option other than like automation and ease and affordability that is really going to drive the sales. I mean, I feel like here in Australia, like, the 7-Elevens and the McDonald's are the ease and the price that people are looking for there, because we have so many good options everywhere else.
And I think in that same market positioning space that there's increasingly competition. Some of the smaller operators have become bigger and bigger. So when you look at some of these chains, and this isn't just Costa and it isn't just the UK, but there's competing places, and they really need to look at what's the unique selling proposition, what's the differentiation that they're going to have between them, because they're all serving similar profiles of drinks, have, smooth jazz music and squishy armchairs, and it's like, well, what then? Why would a consumer choose that place versus another? Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if this kind of competition forces some new innovation for what space those chains form in the market.
I mean, Starbucks in the US definitely looks like they've become like a drinks company rather than a coffee company with innovating this whole line. It's about that crazy list of that menu of different things that, coffee adjacent.
Well, they are changing that, actually. That's kind of an interesting one with Starbucks, with their new CEO, and kind of the refocus there is that they're actually reining back some of I don't know if it's necessarily the automation, but certainly the efficiency protocols that reduce the human connection and we took some of that.
Yeah, we chatted about that when we had the Starbucks Australia team on. We were talking about you're going to have someone that's handing you the drink, that's having those elements of human connection as you go through.
Like handwriting your name on the coffee cup as you come in versus just like a printout sticker. Yeah. It's like the small touches on how are they wanting to get back to the roots or the values.
But then also, interestingly, they also said that all of their growth is coming from drive-through. So convenience is still the king that kind of comes out.
It's a balance.
And they're probably balancing their competitors in that space that are getting more and more automated, or, Luckin Coffee or whatever, where it's like beep on a phone and it's in your hand.
And I think, the lesson for those of us in the specialty coffee industry is that these kinds of market pressures are going to be coming for the same space if they're not already there in your particular market. That they're increasing competition. You need to be thinking, what is the differentiation beyond just great cups of coffee? Because there's going to be more and more great cups of coffee out there. And so how do people make a good choice?
Let's go live to our field reporter, Ollie from Condesa CoLab, with movements on the coffee market this week.
Hey, Ben. Hey, Rohan. Great to hear from you as always. So this week, we find ourselves a market at 409.35. That's a big jump from last week. And what's causing this? There are a couple of key issues. The weather, which I've mentioned, is normal. It is still dry in Brazil. But as we get closer to the crunch point, which is about 2 to 3 weeks away, if the coffee trees don't get rain within that period, we could see the negative impact for the 2026 crop. And that is in turn causing managed money to take a long position on the market. They see a sense of scarcity and they're loading up with lots. We've had about another 4,000 lots added since last week. ICE certified stock levels are still dropping further. They're down at 670,000 bags, which isn't much. And we've only seen 19,000 bags being pended to be graded. So not all of those will come onto the ICE stock levels. And as such, again, that's promoting this idea of scarcity. US tariffs are still in place, which is driving a lot of that consumption. So what does that mean for you, the roaster and the customer? Well, unfortunately, right now, your blend components are going to be very expensive. If you haven't got yourself covered, you could look at taking on single origin lots, flat price coffees, which ironically may even be cheaper than your blend components. So do reach out to your local supplier and see what's available if you've come unstuck. But that's it from me, guys. Till then, all the best. And of course, it's just coffee.
Speaking of great cups of coffee, that was a great cup of coffee episode.
That was a great coffee break cup episode. And we're just mashing things up at this point and with no segues.
My other thing I was going to say was like, oh, there was also another piece of news that came through. That's the end of the coffee break. See you later, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Don't go anywhere. We're going to have a quick word from one of our sponsors, Apax Lab. Elevate your coffee experience with Apax Lab mineral concentrates. Apax Lab's precision-engineered formulas, including tonic, jam, and lilac, are designed to enhance the coffee's natural flavors. Not going to change it, it's just going to enhance it. It's going to bring out the vibrant acidity, the rich sweetness, or if you use lilac, it might bring out those delicate floral notes that you've been looking for. Trusted by world-class cafes and even barista champions, Apax Lab helps you unlock your coffee's full potential. Discover more at apaxlab.com. Wait, where was that again, Sonam?
The internet.
Oh, okay. Thought I was going to say the website. Thanks.
Today's episode is brought to you by our amazing sponsors at Eco Barista. The reason I sound like this is because they got massages at our stand at Mice, and so I'm getting a massage while recording this message for you. They're the best sponsor of the pod that we could have had. They have the best eco products. This probably sounds really pornographic, but it's not. I'm just getting a massage. They have the best eco-friendly coffee products. They got coffee bags that you can design yourself. They got cups. They got iced coffee cups. They got everything you need. So make sure to support them because they support us. Head to ecobarista.com.au and get 15% off your first purchase when you sign up. Oh, mama, that's good.